Hi. Welcome to Tuesday afternoon, right after lunch. It's a good spot. We were very happy to get this spot.
Yes.
My name is Steve Clark. This is Debbie Arbini. And we're from the Skype for Business Product Group. And we specialize, along with our team, in end-user change management, adoption, maximizing ROI. And we're so happy to see so many of you in the room. This is nice. We have lived in a world where not a lot of people think deeply about this space, and then sort of struggle and wonder why end users aren't using the technology that customers have bought and partners have helped them deploy. So we're going to talk a lot about that over the next hour. We will make a plug for session number 2, which is tomorrow at 5 p.m.
5 o'clock? Yep.
That's right. It's kind of a level 200, level 300. This is going to give you a very nice, thorough overview of kind of how we approach this subject. What we're going to share is methodology really that Microsoft is beginning to embrace. This team has been at this business for about 10 years, so we have we've done a lot through live meeting, through Link, and now through Skype for Business. Before I jump in, 3 people I'd like to also introduce. Sarah Rice. Sarah, if you could just wave your hand. Amy Wilburn, and Lori Pottmeyer. So after the session, we're going to make ourselves available to you. So we're going to just try something that says, hey, if you want like a little mini consulting, or you want to go deeper, or you'd like to do some Q&A, there's at least 5 of us in the room who are happy to do that. If you'd like to spend a little more time, we have a sign-up sheet for later. So should you want a half hour with us or something along those lines, we're going to be happy to make ourselves available to you. So that's just a plug for at the end of the session. So this is my favorite slide. We are making these slides available to this group, aren't we?
Yep, they'll be posted, I believe, on the Yammer site that they're posting all of the decks to.
Okay, that's great. So this is my favorite slide, and what it really is attempting to do is to show you why this is an important subject. So we actually did an actual test case. We studied what is the impact of a company that actually takes the subject seriously, plans for change carefully, and then rolls it out in a very, very careful way. And we compared that against a company of similar size, about 25,000 desktops each, that didn't necessarily follow the methodology or the framework. And we took with them over several months, and in the end, what happened was the company that actually followed the methodology, which is not brain surgery, they actually extracted a lot more use, more features were used, they were more satisfied, and the company itself was very happy because they were extracting more return on investment. So in the end, if companies and customers and partners take this subject seriously, you really can have a lot happier end user base using far more of the technology. So with that said, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to discuss end user adoption, ROI very specifically, reliance on behavior change, and the science behind the change. So we'll be touching on all of that. We're going to explore push versus pull strategy. There are some very definite red flags you can be looking out for if it seems like a deployment or an engagement is kind of going off track. And then focusing on the pull strategy. So we'll give you a sense of both. And then we have a number of resources kind of built up over the years. And we want to make sure that you know where they are and have access to them. We make them freely available, and we want you to reuse them. So we're going to make sure that you have access to all the material at the end. So with that, I will hand it over.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. So the first thing I want to do is introduce how we define adoption. Every time I work with a customer, I ask them what adoption means. They all refer to it as something different. So adoption is really someone using Skype for Business without even thinking about it. So if I say, oh, I need to contact Steve, my first thing is I go to Skype, see if he's online, right? And so what we want to do is get users to be in that mindset of before they do anything else, I need to contact so-and-so, let's go see if he's online, let's start an IM, let's give him a call, and they use the technology on a regular basis. So that's how we define adoption. Active users, everyone's familiar with that concept probably. Active users is the first step of getting you there, but we don't want someone just using it once a month. We want someone using it every day of the month. And really, if you get to that point, it's going to help with the ROI. And what I want to call out on those little colored circles there is, you'll notice these are really business-related goals. A lot of times when I work with customers, they're so focused on the IT goals of the deployment and making sure the call quality is great. And those are crucial, absolutely. But you also need to focus on the business goals. That's when you're going to start seeing that ROI. So what we want to do is balance the two and make sure you have a good representation of both. And change is really what's going to be the catalyst, right? If users continue the behavior they're doing today, whether they're using other third-party tools or they're just going down the same path of their current technology, they're not going to change. Change is not going to lead to adoption. Adoption is not going to lead to ROI. So it's kind of a domino effect. So what we really want to do is get users to drive change. And really, it's never been more true than with Skype for Business. Right? I mean, this completely transforms the way users work, interact with one another. You can chat, you can call, you can video call, you can audio call, you can meet, you can present, you can collaborate from any device with anyone at any time. So really, it can completely consolidate and streamline the way they meet and greet everyone, but again, only if they change their behavior, right, and transform. So why do I keep bringing up the word change? Well, the reality is 70% of all change initiatives fail. Science behind it, customers will push it out and say, hey, we have this great new technology, go use it. Users say, I don't think so. I'll give you a quick example of a customer who said, we're just moving from OCS to Skype for Business. It's no big deal. It's the same technology. Someone just said it is. So I'm going to give you a personal example of this. Let's say you're driving a car. You've been driving the same car for the last 10 years. So you're used to it. It has its issues, but you're used to it. Then your spouse decides, you know what, I'm going to buy you a new car. So you leave Monday morning, you go out, there's a new car in the driveway. You're like, great, new car. I have to be in work in 10 minutes. I have a meeting that's about to start. You get in the car, and your coffee cup doesn't fit in the cup holder, and the steering wheel, the gears aren't here anymore, they're down here, and it's one of those keyless ignitions, and you can't figure out how to even start the car because you're like, this is not familiar to me. Car's a car, right? Same thing, it is, same technology, but it's different. So to an end user going through even a little bit of change, giving a little bit of extra hand-holding will go a long way. So just want to call that out of this is a valid statement here. So what we want to do is put a little science behind this before we jump into how we approach this at Microsoft. Is anyone familiar with ProSci, a company called ProSci? Some of you? Great. So ProSci is, they're an industry leader in change management research. They've been doing this for about 16 years, so this is not Microsoft specific. But really what they've come up with is there are really think of it as a three-legged stool. 3 areas that can really help drive results. The top of the triangle, you see leadership. That's kind of a given. You need some sponsorship to push out whatever you're pushing out. The bottom 2, you're probably looking and thinking, change management, project management, kind of the same thing, right? In a way they are. They're related, but they are not mutually exclusive or not independent from one another. Project management, think of project management as really all of the logistics. So it's your goals and your metrics and your timeline and your project plan. You really need to focus on that change piece, which is the end user focus. How are end users going to react to this change? Let's say you have your emails, right? We want to send out 5 emails. This is who's going to send them. Here's our timeline. That's the project management side. The change management side is what goes into those emails. What kind of value messaging do we want to put in there? What is the call to action? What is the value for these end users? What do we want them to do? Why are we making this change? And planning for resistance. Are we going to get users that are going to start pushing back? So again, bringing those 2 together, along with the executive sponsorship, and that's exactly what our programs and resources do. So we're going to show you how we pull all that together in a little bit. So the reality is, why do so many of these programs fail, right? We said 70% of them fail. Why is that? So we developed this concept that we call a push versus pull strategy. So read this for a second, and how many of you, raise your hands, saw a sign that looks something like this in your hotel room, in your hotel bathroom? Help us, save the environment, hang up your towels, make it a good, be good, do good for the environment, right? That's a pull strategy, right? It's getting you in, it's pulling you in to help us help you, right? It's a win-win, be part of it. What if the sign said this? Reuse your towels, it's going to save us money. This is the type of message that companies usually send out, like, hey, we're making this change, effective this day, this technology is going away, and you're going to have this new client on your desktop. Use it. Right? So you can see the push. No one likes to feel like they're pushed into doing something. They want to feel drawn in. And the reality is most customers, or not most, but I will say many, and this doesn't want to work. There we go. Many customers, they take this push tactic without even realizing it. And what they do is they start fielding escalations. And they start putting out fires. And they're just battling with end users versus pulling them in. So what we want to do is really focus on that pull strategy. But before I do that, I want to help you recognize, and actually Steve's going to take you through it, how do you recognize if you're doing a push strategy without even knowing it? So I'm going to hand it back to Steve, and he's going to go through how to identify if you're doing one of these push strategy tactics.
So see if any of this resonates. The if you deploy it, they will come approach. We see this a lot. We see this a lot. And we should be clear. This adoption methodology that we're espousing is really part of a holistic effort that includes planning, deploying, operating. It's the fourth leg of that. It's the adoption side that we kind of see not focused on a lot when companies go and begin to adopt this. So the one-size-fits-all approach, does that sound familiar? The notion that training equals adoption. We see this over and over and over. It's sort of certain departments who are sort of deploying this technology, figure you can throw some training out, and you're done. So that doesn't always work. In fact, it almost never works. Insufficient or non-existent end-user pilot, lack of defined goals and metrics. You'd be surprised how many people make a massive investment in things like Skype for Business and sort of don't really know what success looks like. They haven't set any goals for themselves, both in terms of investment or productivity or end-user consumption of the new features. They really sort of throw it out there and expect people to start using it. If you do goal setting, it actually can help, and Deb will get into that in a second. The assumption that IT represents a typical end user. ITs are specialists. They're great at what they do. They're really, really good at planning and designing and deploying and operating. They're excellent at that, and absolutely you need that. They are not necessarily the standard end user who shows up to work every day to do a good job and doesn't necessarily know how to put a headset on to start using VoIP, right? These are actually real things that people should be considering. And then support help desk is not included in the readiness strategy. Assuming there is a readiness strategy, they typically forget help desk. And you've got to remember that help desk is a critical part of any plan. Right? These are partners in the entire plan of getting people to feel comfortable with new technology. And this sort of then gives you a little more sort of deeper set of what's going on around readiness, technical awareness, training, support, cultural. We are going to make these slides available, so everyone taking photos, you can relax. It's going to be okay. We're happy to share. But take your photo. In fact, I had a nice selfie back there with my new friends. See?
Yes, we're happy to pose with the photos.
We appreciate that. That was very nice. So lack of targeted training. I won't go through all of these, but unaware of full capabilities. You know what? It may surprise you to know that a whole bunch of people in the world either are confused as to what Link is or assume it's only an IM solution. A whole bunch of people in the world think that. And part of our job in this room is to change that, and change that quickly, because it offers so much goodness to companies. But it is amazing. You really can't assume a certain set of knowledge about the technologies you're rolling out. So, things to keep in mind. What happens? What happens if you don't plan for adoption? You're going to get less usage, which means less ROI, probably more dissatisfaction, or just general confusion amongst your users as to why this new thing has appeared on a desktop and they don't know what to do with it. Or, even worse, they show up to work and the old telephone is not on the desk anymore and they're not sure what to do. These are actual scenarios we deal with every day. Over to you.
All right, so now I get to play good cop. Now it's all the things we just talked about of what not to do. Now I get to show you, well, how do we do it right? And as Steve mentioned earlier, it's not rocket science. So if you do it right, graph looks a little bit better, right? Your company invested all this money in Skype for Business. Get the most use out of it. And it doesn't take a lot of time or effort. It just takes time, and it just takes a little bit of time and diligent effort. So I just want to come back to this for some, and this again is ProSci, and they have this model called ADCAR, which a lot of people have heard of. These are really the 5 things that you need to work on, right? Awareness. Obviously, people need to know that, hey, we have Skype for Business. Here's what it is. Here's why we invested in it. Here's when we're rolling it out. Some of the key logistics. Desire is the big blocker. Desire is the what's in it for me. Users need to know. Think about any change that goes on in your life, personal, business, whatever. The first thing you're thinking is, what's in it for me? Why should I change, right? And resistance is a natural reaction. Think about if you're driving to work and all of a sudden there's construction and there's a detour and you immediately get rerouted somewhere else. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this. I'm trying to get to work. Immediately you're resisting. You're thinking, well, why do I have to go somewhere else? I can just go through, right? So again, resistance is a natural reaction. You want to create that desire. Knowledge is training. Everyone's familiar with that. Ability. People have to have the ability to use the tool. So often we have customers that they'll roll this out and they have the awareness, they have the desire, they have the knowledge. They have not taken time to invest in things like devices. So then someone goes to make a call and they're on this old headset that's duct taped together and they can't make a successful call. It's foggy and they can't hear the other person and it's poor call quality and all of that. And it's tied to their device. They don't have the ability to successfully use the technology. So make sure all the tick boxes are checked for the ability. And reinforcement. I'm sure you've all been in a situation where you've rolled out some new technology. I'm sure you can all think of examples when we rolled out a product and it went really well, and then other ones where it kind of went, hey, everyone's using it, and then no, they're not. And then it just kind of bottoms out and flat lines. You need to reinforce it. You need to keep the momentum going. So what we've done is we've taken our entire methodology, the last 10, I've been here doing this for about 14 years, of how do you apply all this to Skype for Business? So again, this is just industry standard. This is not Microsoft specific. But what we've done is we've said, we know how to take this and apply it specifically to Skype. These may look familiar to you if anyone's been on the O365 Success Center. We use the same methodology. We just go deeper specifically to Skype for Business. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give you an overview in each one of these areas. In tomorrow's session at 5 o'clock, we're going to go deep. We're going to take you end to end how I would work with a customer, which could be a 6 or 9 month engagement. I'm going to show you how to do it in 90 minutes tomorrow. But today I do want to give you an overview, so if you're ready to get started, you'll be able to kickstart that process on your own. First one is planning. This is really, if I had to create a wheel that was 100%, I would say 20% of your time is spent in planning. It's a good chunk of time. You want to identify, why did we buy this technology? What is the value? The value at the organizational level, right? We bought it to save $5 million. We bought it to streamline all our communication technologies into one. What is the value to end users? And as Steve mentioned before, red flag, one size fits all. It's not the same value message, right? Think of a road warrior, right? Someone who's in sales, who's traveling 90% of the time. They have a very different use case. They're going to rely on this technology day in and day out to meet with their colleagues, their customers, their managers, wherever they are, in the airport, in Starbucks, versus someone who's maybe in HR where their entire team sits within a 5-foot radius in their office. So it's the value. What is the value to those different user groups? So you want to take time to look at different user groups in your organization. What are your goals and metrics? Steve called that out too, right? It's kind of a contradiction of all the red flags he mentioned. What are you trying to do? I can't tell you how many times I meet with customers and I'm like, well, what are your goals? We want to drive adoption. Great, what does that mean? How do you know if you've gotten there, right? It's like you start a marathon, you know where that finish line is. You need to know where your finish line is to know if you've gotten there or if you veered off track. And what you want to do, I always encourage customers, set really big goals towards the end, but set smaller milestones and victories so that you know that you're on the right track, you know the momentum's going, and it allows you to course correct much earlier on if you know that you're veering off track. So you want to have that project plan. You want to know, what is our timeline? What are dependencies? Right? So there's definitely an alignment with IT. You want to make sure that the technology is deployed, so they kind of go hand in hand. You want to make sure everything is really coming together so that you can then translate that into communications and into training and into support, making sure your help desk is ready. So that's another one Steve called out, right? Help desk. The first time when you have a problem with any technology, the first person you do is you pick up the phone and you call the help desk. They are usually that first impression that an end user has about the technology. And if someone calls your help desk and they're like, Skype for what? We don't use Skype here. I don't know what you're talking about. Think of what type of reflection that leaves on the product. So planning, again, you want to take the time. Have the right project team. We always talk about how critical, you saw in the triangle earlier, about how critical it is to have an executive sponsor. And I'll clarify that by saying it's the right executive sponsor. An executive sponsor is not someone who just sits and signs an email. Write the email, I'll sign my name, I'll hit send, and it's good to go. They need to be active. They need to be visible. They need to be an influencer to influence these other teams. They really need to support the product. They also need to lead by example. The worst thing you want is someone who's saying, everyone needs to use Skype for Business, and then you go meet with them and they're using WebEx or they're using some other tool, right? You lead by example and use the technology. So all of that comes into the planning phase. And then you say, great, we have our plan, we know what we're doing, we have our communications ready, we're ready to hit send to 20,000 users. Not yet. test it first. Confirm that you're really ready to hit the big button and launch out to everyone. So our confirm, our kind of phase 2, we call it our pilot. This is not an IT pilot, it's an end user pilot. Think of those different personas or user groups we talked about earlier. So someone in sales and marketing and HR, the various different groups, call centers, if you have those within your type of organization, manufacturing, things like that. Make sure that you're validating all of these scenarios. That, hey, we purchased Skype for Business for X, Y, and Z. Make sure they can actually use it for X, Y, and Z. Make sure that the right features are turned on. Make sure that they have good quality, that they have the right devices, that they are really ready to go, because chances are if those small user group of a pilot, if they run into issues or they have questions, it's only going to be multiplied 20,000 times if you push this out. And remember the example Steve gave earlier, the usage chart? I worked with both of those customers. They got the same exact guidance from me, same exact duration of a program. That bottom one did not do a pilot. They did not onboard their help desk. There were a lot of things they did not do and very easily could have been avoided.
And that bottom one also called us up very angry, wondering why things weren't working.
Yeah. And then they came back and said, maybe we should have done a pilot. And they ended up, well, we'll get more into that example later. All right, once you've validated everything, now you're ready to go. Now you're ready to do the broad launch, right? This is what everyone gets excited about. It's your big launch day. You might have awareness events, really kick everything off. Even here, what you want to do is continue that validation. Remember those small goals along the way? Continue to validate. And I would say don't push the button to 20,000, 100,000 employees at once. Phase it by location, by region, by role, however you want to do it. I have customers that maybe do 5,000 users a week or 10,000 users a week. But you want to break it up because, again, if something goes awry, it allows you to more quickly pinpoint exactly what went wrong so that, again, you can course correct before 100,000 users get it, and then you're trying to figure out where the big barrier is.
You know, we can tell you that at Microsoft, we kind of tend to roll out in about 5,000 user chunks, typically by region. And we will do that day to day to day, monitor and make sure things are going, and then we'll continue, we'll keep going. So we do take a very measured approach to even turning our own company on to new technology.
Yeah, and there are other things we'll talk about tomorrow, such as change champions and hypercare, having additional support and additional kind of evangelists on deck in the first days of your rollout. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how to get those roles, what do those mean, and really make sure that you have enough people on board staff to help you through this type of rollout. All right, so now you've planned, you've tested, everyone has it, you're done, right? This is where the momentum comes in, that reinforcement, that last R when we showed you that ADKAR model. Now it's time to start assessing. Well, did we meet our goals? Did we not? Are we on track? It's really important. When I work with customers, they'll say, well, we want to have 80% active users, and within 3 days of their launch, they're wondering why everyone's not using it yet. Why aren't we there yet? Why aren't we there yet? We haven't seen our goals yet. It's a failure. It's a failure. Results take time, especially if you're looking to, let's say, replace your PBX system or completely disconnect from other third-party web conferencing tools. That takes time. You're looking maybe 3-6 months down the road. So again, as you go into this assess phase, outline a plan. What do we want to track? What can we track realistically 30 days out, 60 days out, 120 days out? And again, keep the momentum going to show progress. Also make a plan. Assess. You want to assess where you are and where you want to go. So you've just handled a big rollout for everyone that existed today. What about tomorrow you hire 100 employees? They weren't part of that initial rollout. So you need a plan. How are you going to onboard new employees? Great. Make it part of new employee orientation. What about, everyone knows, Skype for Business, it's technology. It's going to ever evolve. There's client updates that come out regularly. If there's great new features, how are you going to handle that and make sure that users are aware of those new features? So it's kind of this cycle that starts of we've gotten this out to the masses, they have it as it is today, but how do we plan for the future? How do we keep it growing and keep that momentum? And even reinforcing the behavior. We have customers that will do newsletters, that will do success stories. I have worked with a customer once who was a sales organization, and everyone's sales can be pretty competitive with one another. And they started using our technology. So they still traveled, right? I will be the first to say that a technology like this will never, ever replace 100% of face-to-face, the value add of a face-to-face meeting. You know, it can't do that physical handshake. But if you do that once or twice and you develop that relationship, absolutely, this could be used for that. for the bulk of your meetings. So the sales rep, he went on site, met with the customer, and then he used the technology to hold meetings in between instead of needing to fly back and forth, which takes a lot of time and away from his day. He came back and said, I was able to close that deal that would normally take 8 weeks. I did it in 6 weeks. And his manager was like, that's great. His colleague said, if you did it in 6, I can do it in 5. Like, it started this competition, which I thought was hilarious. But, you know, showing that momentum with peers gets that kind of competitive, oh, if you did it for that, I didn't even think about using it for that. And I will tell you, for as long as I've been doing this, I still have customers when I meet with them and say, well, how do you want to use this technology? What is it going to do for your business? I am still surprised at the creative ways they come up to use it. So keep that momentum going. Share those stories with one another. Kind of keep, whether it's newsletters, contests. I have customers that will say, you know, our top 10 active users will be entered into a drawing to win a free dinner or something like that. So great ways to keep that momentum going. So earlier, I don't know if, let me go back to the slide here. We talked about there's 4 steps. I just took you through those 4 steps. At the bottom, there's integrated success indicators. So remember that example that Steve gave when we first started, right? The chart that looked like this? We based those results, we said, how did those results really impact? Or what did they do? What did this one customer who landed up here do really well that this other customer didn't do? It was all based off of these success factors, right? Again, not rocket science. You want to have an executive sponsor, and again, the right executive sponsor. You want to have a plan. What are you going to do? How are you going to roll this out to your entire organization? Project team, goals and metrics, a pilot, devices, training, awareness. I mean, nothing we haven't talked about already. 10 simple steps that integrate across those 4 phases. That's it. That's our secret sauce. 10 factors across 4 steps.
So we can go home now?
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
Okay. Good.
And that one customer, the one customer who landed up here, they had 9 out of 10. The one customer who landed here, 5 out of 10. They are still halfway there, but it shows you how critical each of these steps are.
And tracking these 10 is actually predictive. You can assign numbers to these and track and get a really good sense of if a rollout is on track or not on track. And so it actually could help you as a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So where do we go with all of this information? All right. Well, the one thing I want to call out, this is where I usually get growls from the audience, when I say change is really controlled by the end user. The end user gets to choose whether they want to change or not. And I have customers that say, no, they don't. It's not an option. If they don't like it, they can leave. Right? They say it's not an option. So here's an example. I had a customer a year ago who decided to replace their whole PBX system. Wasn't an option. People couldn't keep their phone. Users came in on a Monday morning. No, they didn't know. They sent an email saying, oh, we're getting rid of your phone system. And users don't compute what that means. They're like, we've always had a phone. How are you going to take our phone away? You can't do that. Users came in on a Monday morning, and there was a headset plugged into their computer. And it said, here's your phone. You know, Link is now your phone. This was a year ago, so it was still Link. And they said, well, everyone has to use it. There's not an option not to use it. Yeah, you know what people did? They started calling people from their mobile phone. They did not use Link as their phone. You can't force people to change. They found a way around it because they're comfortable holding something. They knew, I know how this works. I know this is a phone. I don't know how to call from my computer. That's not a natural thing for me. So no, they did not change. Users can opt, and users will find a way around it. I've had customers that say, well, there's this pocket of people, and they're using this web conferencing tool that we didn't even know they were using. Right? They went and got a personal subscription to it. And then what happens? It's actually worse for IT, because then you have all these pockets of all these tools that are not approved. I see someone shaking their head within their organization. You don't want that. Right? And again, if they don't want to change, they will find a way around it.
You'd be surprised how many executives fall in that category. You know, for the longest time at Microsoft, we had a SWAT team flying out to help the people that supported our executives, because in the end, they had an extremely important meeting and they just had to get in, but all of a sudden they didn't know what to do. Imagine, we can do better.
Yeah, and we had, it was actually one of our Fiserv companies, one of the sales reps went out and said, oh, how's Link working out for you? And he's like, oh, I use it for IM all the time. Because he knew that, all he knew was that Link was an IM tool. And again, this is a couple years ago, so it was still Link. And he knew that Link was an IM tool, and he knew that he used IM. So he just put the two together and said, I use Link for IM. And he's like, well, great, show me what you're doing. So the sales rep goes up to his desk. They were in the same location. He looks down. He's like, that's not Link. He had a different IM tool. And he's like, let me show you something. He's like, you stay at your desk. I'm going to go out to the hallway. Took his computer, goes out to the hallway, sends an IM on Link. And he's like, hey, look at that. There's someone else popped up on my screen. That's Link. And he's like, oh, let me give you a quick call. And he's like, so he goes to his phone, and his Link rings. And he's like, I didn't know it could do that. And then he's like, hey, we've been working on this proposal. Instead of me coming back into your office, let me share it with you. Within 3 minutes, this executive learned that it could do IM, it could do calling, it could do app sharing where you can collaborate with one another. So that's all it takes. Again, it's not a lot of effort, but it is some effort. Because again, sometimes people think, well, I use IM. It's an IM tool. Hence, I must be using this tool. It's like that math when you did in like 3rd grade. You kind of associate one to another. The important point to call out here, not only is it controlled by the end user, but unless they change and the rate at which they change and the depth to which they change, that's going to impact your ROI. So again, you bought Skype for Business for a reason, right? You bought it because you want to get some return on your investment. It's not just a technical deployment. It's not just standing up a server or turning on your online tenant. It's making sure people use it. So the faster they use it, the deeper they use it, and the more people that use it, the faster you're going to get that return on your investment. So on the right side of the screen are just some ways to do that. We already talked about targeting personas, right? Identifying those different, don't go crazy. You can say there's 100 different personas, maybe 5 or 6, right? I call out the road warriors, and there's actually in the appendix, if we have time, we can get to it, where I can show you some of those personas if you're interested of how we kind of work with customers and divvy those up. Really build that trust. A lot of times you'd be surprised at how often users just want to know their voice is heard. If they don't like something, if they complain about it, they get it off their chest, they're good to go. They just want to know that they're part of the conversation. So make sure you keep feedback loops open and really empower them. Say, we want this to be, again, pull them in. We want this to be a win-win for both of us. The bottom one here, I changed it. It used to say creating raving fans, right? Everyone's like, oh, raving fans, football fans, things like that. But I don't want to just say, get those champions, get people use it all the time that are bragging about it, but I want them craving more. I want them coming back and saying, hey, you gave us IM, where's the voice? Where's the video piece? Give me more, right? So I want them to be craving the technology, not just raving about it. So different ways and again, following those 4 steps, 10 success factors, will get you to all of those areas. All right, so we talked more about this, right? This is that slide going back to this, and we talked about how we'll call them purple customer and green customer. And again, I mentioned one had 5 out of 10, one had 10 out of 10 of those success factors. And again, as Steve mentioned, comparable deployment types. It wasn't that one was this little 5-seat customer and one was this 100,000-seat customer. They really did the same amount of work. Well, I shouldn't say they did the same work because one chose not to. They got the same amount of guidance and recommendations and the same resources. One just chose to say, we're going to skip a pilot. We don't need to do it. We just want to get this out. They didn't test the client in a production environment. That was one thing they did wrong. And the client was not packaged correctly to work in production. It worked great in a lab. Again, that's why you want to do an end-user pilot. As I mentioned, their help desk wasn't ready. They did a one-size-fits-all. Let's just push one email that goes out to everyone with the same message. And really what ended up happening here is they had so many escalations. They were putting out fires for the first 30 days. And they said, why? We don't get it. People were complaining about it so badly that they came back and said, maybe we should have done what you said to begin with. So we helped them through a pilot. We helped them kind of guide them through the process. But you can see even a year after that, they were still trying to recoup. So once you lose that trust, and that's why building trust is so important, because once you lose that trust with anybody, right, even in your personal life, once you lose that trust, it's really hard to build that back up. So if you get off the ground right from day one, you're just going to build that solid foundation. So you really want to focus on the positives.
Hey, you know what? We should also make the point to the partners in the room. This is a large opportunity for you. It's not something you have to give away for free. We see plenty of examples of partners who are offering this as a practice and using it as a revenue generator as well. Don't forget.
Yeah. All right, so that was a lot of information. Now you're thinking, well, what do we do with all this, right? So our team has put together, has anyone heard of RASK? The Rollout and Look at that, yay! Rollout and Adoption Success Kit. So our team created that, and it's really just, it's been updated for Skype for Business. If you haven't been back, go check it out. There's new downloads, new resources out there. We're continually adding more training resources and things as they become available. It includes, remember the project management, change management, bottom side of the triangle? That's kind of the downloads package, right? We have this core set of resources. That's going to be your project plan, discovery questions are the things you want to work with your project team on. So think of those as all the, how do I manage this project? And then the supplemental resources go through training and awareness and pilot. How do I get users to change their behavior? Who are my target users? What kind of metrics do I put in place? It kind of brings everything together in a nice little downloads package. And it's just aka.ms/rask. Very easy to remember for you. There also, if you are doing Skype for Business online, please also do go to this Customer Success Center if you're not already familiar with that. It does provide, it offers guidance across all the different products, but there are some specific downloads for Skype for Business as well. I think it's under the Make Meetings Matter scenario, I think it's what it's called. We'll be adding more to that as well over time. So definitely please check that out. In addition, one of the big things we hear from customers, even though we said training doesn't equal adoption, training is a big part of adoption, right? Once they buy into it, once users have the desire, once they know what's going on, they say, great, how do I use it? You know, show me what to do. So we have a lot of readiness and adoption and training resources here for you. Again, they're all free. There's free instructor-led webinars. So there's 3 classes we're offering right now. One is on what's new. So if your users are upgrading from Link 2013, it's a quick 30-minute, here's the new interface, here's where the new bells and whistles are, here are some of the new features. 30 minutes, and they'll be onboarded. They'll know what's going on with Skype for Business. If they're brand new, we have a Getting Started class and an advanced class. So kind of an introductory and a deep dive. There's some downloadable quick start guides. In addition, our content publishing team, who puts together these quick start guides and some other training videos, things like that, they're working on something called Modern Learning with Office Mix. Office Mix, if you're not familiar with that, it's really this add-in for PowerPoint that allows you to pull everything together. So you can put videos in there and links to downloads, polls, and it puts it in this nice little PowerPoint package where someone just hits button, and there's a video here. We couldn't get it to work, so I can't show you a demo of it.
Actually, if you saw our video, the little teaser for this event, we did it in Office Mix.
That's right, we did.
See?
There you go.
Yeah.
And if not, yeah. But what they're looking for is they want your feedback. They want your input. Is this what you're looking for? What did you like about this Office Mix? What didn't you like about it? So at the bottom here, in the bottom left corner, you'll see an aka.ms/yam train. It's a Yammer group they've set up. You'll learn about Office Mix. You'll learn what they're trying to do. And this is across Office 365. So there'll be Skype for Business specific. But again, if you're doing the whole suite, this could be a great opportunity to give us feedback, right? You know, customers and partners like to give us feedback. Hey, here's what we'd like to see. Here's what might work. This is your opportunity to give us that information. All right, so where do we go from here? Remember that change does not happen overnight. Again, those results, you will see them if you do this process right, but you're not going to see them tomorrow. You're not going to see them probably even in 30 days. You're looking at a few months down the road. So again, set those smaller milestones. What can you track on a regular basis to make sure that momentum keeps going, that you're not veering off track? And remember that resistance is a natural reaction. Again, I'm sure everyone in this room can think of a time when you were pushed into something that you had to change, whether it's you go to your favorite restaurant and you want your meal and we just ran out of that, you have to order something else. And you're like, I don't want to order something else, that's what I wanted, right? Any type of change, your immediate reaction is going to be like, nope, not doing it. So it's a natural reaction. It's just a human reaction. So plan for it. Even if you think it's a little tool like, OCS to Skype for Business, it's the same thing. To you, it's the same thing, and as long as they get that orientation, as long as they know what's going on, it will be much easier. Make sure you tie that to business results. Again, so often I meet with customers, and I'm like, well, when they do have goals, they're IT goals. Well, I want to get this deployed. I want my call quality to be X, and IT, once it's deployed, that's it, I'm done. That's not going to get users using it. It's going to get it deployed, and it's going to get deployed collecting dust. So you want to make sure that you have business results that are tied to end users actually changing their behavior so that you can start seeing that ROI. So again, that push versus pull strategy. So next steps, tomorrow We're going to take you deep on all 4 of those areas that we talked about, that plan, confirm, execute, and assess. We're going to give you lots more customer examples and templates. So that's tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and it'll be recorded if you can't join that. Definitely download our resources. There will be some Skype for Business demos and kind of ask questions, ask experts going on Thursday. And that is in the theater. So there's going to be using Skype, learning about Skype and the Skype for Business client, and Skype for Business with meetings, Skype for Business and operations. So we have some of our marketing folks that'll be doing those. So definitely attend those if you can. And again, if you're interested, feel free to sign up for that Yammer group.
So Deb, with Rask, nothing's stopping them from putting their own logos on it?
Nope, Rask, all the templates are perfectly customizable. There's email templates, there's kind of general guidance in there. You are free to do with them what you will. Yep, absolutely.
But be kind.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So what I want to do now, we actually have about 30 minutes. We can go through a lot of questions, or go deeper in any one of these areas if someone wants to learn about personas or more about ProSci.
Question.
Yes.
My question is, when we talk about Skype for Business here, are we generally talking about the one in the cloud or the Skype for Business server version?
Oh, great question. We actually focus on both. So really, we focus on customers who just do on-prem, on the cloud, or a hybrid. So again, our goal is this methodology will apply across.
And does.
Yeah.
And we've.
What about those videos, though? Are those videos, there are different capabilities between...
You will find content-specific stuff like the training, which is specific to Skype for Business right now. Stuff like Rask is agnostic and can be used for any of them. So we have something for everyone.
And most of so in those instructor-led webinars, the training webinars that are listed there, what we tell customers is it's going to vary. So yeah, there's specific features of what they may or may not have available will vary not only by on-prem or online, but it's really going to be specific of how their customer deployed it. So if they're online and they have certain features, maybe their customer opted not to turn it on. So we always tell them, this is the blanket. You know, if you see something and you're not finding it on your own client, check with your IT department, check with your manager to see if that's something that you have enabled based on the type of deployment that you have.
So I know we're going to go deeper tomorrow. So why don't we open the floor to Q&A? And again,
and if you want to step up to the mics, because I know they're recording this and they want to catch some of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
In the planning stage, to what degree do you publish that to the community to get their buy-off or to board them in terms of their rating of what the plan is? Or is it more of an internal SWAT team of folks you put together to come up with that consensus?
That's a great question. So we have a tool, and it's called a deployment readiness report. And I would suggest that you use that in conjunction with the project plan. So let's say you have your deep project plan. Chances are your stakeholders, I wouldn't recommend sharing the project plan with everybody, but definitely your stakeholders, the people that will have to sign off and kind of give that buy-in, they don't care about those intricate details, right? They're like, that's glazing over, that's too much information for me. But we have this tool, Lori on my team over there I worked on, and it's called a deployment readiness report. What it does is it takes some of the technical deployment aspects and those 10 success factors, more or less, and it rates them from 0 to 100%. So you can say our marketing for our awareness campaign, 0% is obviously we haven't started it yet. 50% is, we're halfway there. We have some of the emails. We have some things that are okay, but it's kind of generic. 100% is we have targeted communications, and it's not just email. We're doing awareness events. We have it all dialed in. And that can be a report where you can show progress immediately, first to get buy-in from the stakeholders, and then show them progress over time of here's where we are in each of these buckets. Here's our progress, or here's where we're red. Here's where we're getting stalled, and I need your influence, and I need your help. Or get their buy-in of, oh, you know what, I don't want to, maybe their stakeholders might say, don't go down that path, let's do this instead. And it's something that you can use at the pilot stage, right? Maybe that's your go, no-go decision that you have to be at a certain percentage of each one of those areas before you can move on to the execute stage. So we have customers that use it that way. We have customers that use it to present to stakeholders. So I think you can kind of use the two of those together in helping. Yeah, thanks.
Here.
Yeah, my company, I've got a lot of developers that like regular old Skype instead of Link, and I'm hoping this may be a turning point for them. but I also need to understand what they're not going to have. So, for instance, I know that they use channels quite often instead of persistent chat. So, are they going to have access to Skype channels through Skype for Business, or what other things won't be available compared to the regular old Skype?
So Skype Consumer versus Skype for Business?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so there's a lot of significant differences, obviously behind the scenes related to security, privacy, et cetera. If you give me your name, we'll actually point you to resources. It's a long list.
Okay.
We're obviously making them look alike. We're making them interoperate.
Yes.
They are still very different experiences, and we're happy to get you that information.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, back here?
Hey, does your adoption model change when you start looking at a feature-by-feature basis as compared to Skype as a complete client and a complete feature set?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? There was an
So
echo.
you can enable different features, right? I can enable video but not voice. So does your change model or your adoption model change as you start looking at a
Got it.
feature-by-feature basis compared to the entire feature set?
Yep. It can be applied to anything. So this model, I will tell you, has been used, if anyone is familiar with live meeting, that is still around. So chuckles. So we applied it to live meeting, to OCS, to Link, and now Skype for Business, which all had different, some different feature sets, some that did exist, some didn't exist. I have customers that will say I'm just doing IM. I have customers that say I'm doing IM and voice and video, and we want to apply it to that. I think what will change, so the methodology itself won't change. If you're doing voice, you still want to have a plan. You still want to do a pilot with users, things like that. I think what will change is maybe some of the questions you ask with your project team. If you're not using any audio, for example, maybe you don't need to think about devices right now. So it really, I think you would just adjust it, but the methodology, the 10 success factors, would apply if you're just doing IM or if you're doing the full suite.
They apply.
Yeah.
They all apply. Let's do one here, and then we'll go back there.
Is there a timeline when the Rusk will be available in other languages?
I'm sorry?
The Rusk
Rask,
tool.
yes.
Yeah.
So right now it's English only. We've been I'll tell you the longer term plan for Rask, so because that will change the game. So right now it is English only, unfortunately. A lot of the training videos though that we're getting will be localized. So the videos themselves will be downloadable. We're working on that. It'll probably still be a couple weeks out. But over time, what we're looking to do, because I mentioned we have the Success Center, right, and that is localized. So there are resources there that you can access in your local language. What we're working to do is integrate Rask into the Success Center so that you don't have to go to two separate places. So once that happens, we'll have the localized versions. And that we're hoping by end of year, so it'll still a few months out. But
We hear that ask a lot.
Right, we do hear that
take it
ask a lot.
seriously. We have a plan to get there. It's just
Yeah.
taking some time.
yeah, thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of bringing our users to the product to get the training, so overlays, bubble effects, providing the message and training right at the app, instead of trying to do it outside of that presence through communications. Have you guys worked at all with your product to be able to do, as the user uses a feature, that they can get training on the spot so they learn as they're using it? Maybe say the first time they launch a link,
Yeah.
they have all the instructional materials there instead of having to go somewhere else to get them?
Yeah. So in product experience, in product training, yeah. So we are beginning to move towards that. So if you launch the new client today for Skype for Business, what you will be presented is 7 sort of interactive slides that give you a brief sense of what the capabilities are. That's a first step for us. We are exploring other in-product opportunities, and nothing to announce on that subject today.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you see a lot today in the web, if you go to a new website and the changes, a lot of times they'll have an overlay that says the new site's coming, here's
Sure.
all the things that have changed.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to have, here's the new Link product, and here's all the things that changed,
Yeah.
with Link was it went to Skype.
So my counterpart on the development side of the house, I'm actually sitting down with him next week to talk about this subject of how to improve adoption change management built into the product to help the cause. So we actually agree with you. We think you can present more to the end user in product. Yes, sir.
Do you have any success stories to share with some of the more difficult users to track down, hard to track down executives, the road warriors? This will be our third user adoption project. We did Link 2010, Link 2013. We're getting better all the time, but it's still hard to track down those people. Just won't accept the meetings, won't come to the trainings.
Mm-hmm.
Any suggestions? Any places you've had successes with those types of users?
Yeah, I think what might be good, if you have time right after this session, is to sit down with one of us on our team to kind of go specific on what your particular use cases are, because then I think we all come with different years of experience with working with different types of customers that we can probably give you more specifics if you have time
Yeah,
right
definitely.
after this.
Thank you.
We won't give you names, but we have lots of experience.
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, there's one. Yep.
Hi, I work for the government, and our organization is still in the process of learning Link 2013. I think the biggest takeaway we have is IM, which I always use IM, but a lot of people don't know how to use the video conferencing, which is a really great tool. And my organization, by the way, is not very good at adopting change after change. And my question is, what would you recommend would be the best strategy on keeping people on board on this instead of hating it and saying, oh, it's another SharePoint? So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Basically, how to get them excited about using video conferencing?
Well, not video conferencing, because I understand that it's also a rebranding, right, from Link
Sure.
2013 to
Yep,
Skype
yep,
for
yep.
Business.
Yep.
The name alone, even if the features and functionalities, most of them stay the same,
Yep.
how would you help me make my people
Yep.
have that mental, that's like, oh, it's another change.
Probably what we would encourage is that you go back to these success factors and relaunch it. We would argue that you should take it seriously and relaunch it and do it in a high-profile way. Perhaps all hands, something along those lines.
And I think part of it comes back, if I went to that ad car model, where it's creating the desire of the what's in it for me. Like, so if someone's used to doing a meeting a certain way, and they're like, well, that's always worked for me, why should I change? Like, I have too many other things going on. And if it's thinking about it of, for example, if someone is in sales and they're traveling all the time, well, did you just miss your kid's soccer game? Wouldn't you like to stay home for that? Wouldn't you like to, it's kind of bringing in the value add to that personal value add of what would be in it for them to make that mind shift.
Can I have a follow-up question? So, for example, if say, okay, it's Link 2013 now, why are we moving to Skype for Business? What is the biggest difference? What's the highlight? What would be my answer?
So the promise of Skype for we could go on on that one. There's a big reason we changed the name and the look. But the whole promise of Skype for Business is that we're making it a lot more friendly to the end users. Have you seen the UI? Have you seen the new experience?
The Skype for Business?
Yes.
No, not yet.
Oh, well, let's get that downloaded. So yes, I think once you see it, you'll begin to understand a little more clearly why the difference. We are finding end-user adoption is higher. User satisfaction is already higher. All of our early testing suggested that the changes we have made make it more approachable, more friendly, sort of bringing the design elements of Skype Consumer to the business community appears to be resonating very, very well with the end-user community. I think you'll like it, but let me know. I'll give you my email.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a quick comment. One thing that seems to create a lot of user confusion every time this process happens is the Outlook add-in plugin gets changed. And so this time when you install the new Skype for Business client, it's the language is now changed from Link to Skype. And
yes.
Does any of this training address that at all?
So we actually have a piece we can point you to that talks specifically about that to kind of help people over.
Oh, good.
Certainly the methodology could help your end users over the hump, but we understand that it's going to feel a little awkward for a while. We do get that, and I do appreciate the pain. But we have stuff to help you with. We can point it to you.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. Nope.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a way to customize your training materials as you customize your Skype for Business deployment for your organization. One of the things I've just encountered is it's a heavily customizable app. You can enable, disable features, and a lot of the training materials are kind of out of the box. Are there ways to help kind of modify those and mold them to individual deployments?
Yeah, so the training videos, again, they're not posted just yet, but you can, if you wanted to see what they were for 2013, you can download that. But hopefully in a couple weeks, we'll have those on the Download Center, and those are downloading the source files of the videos. So yeah, if there's features you're not using, you have editing tools, edit them out. Yeah, so those will be, and our quick start guides are all, I think they're in Word or PowerPoint format.
So customizable.
So yeah, we try to create everything that it's in a modifiable format for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of great questions.
Yeah. All right, and
Going
just
once.
as a reminder, so if anyone does, if you have time now, I think there is someone that we can, maybe take a little deeper conversation right now and If anyone is interested in talking to us about your current environment, of whether you're upgrading, whether you have it deployed right now or in the process of doing it, myself and Lori and Sarah and Amy, we're
here.
Yeah, we're happy to meet with you. So come up. We have a sign-up sheet. So if we can't meet right now, we can sign up a time tomorrow or Thursday. And it's up here. Lori has it over in the green shirt.
So thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate
thank you.
it.